Hello everyone, welcome to the world of Blenderism. In this episode I want to show you how to fill letters, using geometric nodes, particles, or elements. It can be an apple, a ball, an object that has a roundish shape. In this case it will work well, and if there are questions with oblong things. In general, you can create this kind of logos or animations. And so let's get started. We have our almighty cube, we do not delete it. At the beginning we divide the screen into two parts. On the left we will have nodes, on the right we will see what is happening. Let's connect geometric nodes to it and start creating. First of all we add string to curves and connect it to the output. In the settings we set the location to the center and let's write one letter B from the word blender or Blenderism. Next we set its size to 5 This is so that it is possible to see what is happening, and we will turn the letter B relative to the x-axis by 90 degrees Celsius so that it looks at us. We add the next node, fill curves, to fill the distance between the curves. The next node we add an extruded mesh in order to extrude the letter by thickness. But if you turn it around and look at it from behind, we see that it is not filled from behind. In order to fix this, you need to add a join geometry node and connect it to the fill curves node. Next, you can add a realize instances node. Well, now we can add mesh to volume in order to convert it to volume. Well, and in order to read information from the volume and convert it at a point, we need to add distribute points in volume. Set both density values to 100. Well, if you look closer, these points intersect with each other. This needs to be fixed somehow. Because if you replace them with objects, it will be quite apparently a point. For this, we use the following node merge by distance. But it does not cope. Therefore, you need to repeat this approximately 4 times under the key 1 by 1. We connect them in turn geometry and after that, when ready, you can minimize them. And placing them neatly. I recommend doing this right away so that it is clear where to look if you need to fix something, and in general so that there is order. And so now in order to control this effect we add a value node and connect it to each of these 4 nodes in the gray dots. So well, add value, connect it and set to 0.05 and leave for now. So we will come back here later. Now we can move on, add instances on points node, add a set position node and add a set material node. Here you will need to indicate the material you are using. So now let's add an object that we will fill these letters. But for this you must have the bolts add and enabled. I will add a nut to the seam. Now you need to scale it, and before you include it in instances do not forget to apply the scale, otherwise it will turn out like my nut on the whole screen. The computer began to lag because of this. So be careful. Now we can continue. I add random value, connect it to scale. And now we have the ability to control the size of our objects using the minimum and maximum values. Now we duplicate this node, switch to vector mode and connect to rotation, which will give us the ability to control the minimum and maximum values of rotation of elements. Now we can zoom in a little. If you look, the nuts intersect with each other, and this is not what we are striving for. This can be configured with the value node that we added earlier and connected to merge by distance. Here you need to experiment with the scale with the value and density values and visually look at the result. These 4 settings will help us get rid of this. Try to change them one by one and strive for the ideal. You can try to start with a large distance between them and start to zoom in until the result becomes satisfactory. This is exactly the point that I usually say at the end of each video: try different settings. So now I suggest moving on to the nodes that will help with animation. Add a math vector node, duplicate it at once, and switch the second one to scale. We can turn it on immediately in offset. Now we add a noise texture, switch it to 4D. And plug color to vector. So now, as we know, our particles rotate around their axis. Now we need to make them rotate in a global sense. We need to add the rotate instances node. And uncheck the local space setting. We add the random value node and connect it to rotation. Our letter is a little broken, no big deal. This is because in the random value node the maximum value is 1. We need to set it to 0. And the scale also needs to be changed to 0. And as you can see, everything is back to normal. So now I suggest adding another node set position so that we can control in which direction our animation will move. So we duplicate it and put it next to it. Now we add the node combine X, Y, Z and connect it to offset. And we also need a node random value which we connect to the axis along which we want our particles or elements to move. For example, I want them to move along the X and Y axis. I connect them there, and as you can see, the elements have shifted since the maximum value is at 1. Now let's make an interactive menu with which you can easily manage all this. I add a node group input to which we will connect and turn all the settings that we want to display on our screen. First we connect geometry, and here we immediately see a small problem because the particles began to take the shape of a cube, but we need to make a plane. So let's delete a few faces from it. Well, everything is fine, we can continue. The next one is the volume density and the point density. After that, we connect strings so that we have a line in which we can write our letters. Next, we connect the minimum and maximum rotation of our particles, and then using the N button, we call up a menu in which we can give a name to what we connected. For example, because we will have 2 rotations, we need to rename one of them exactly. Next, we have the minimum and maximum scale, we connect it and rename it. Next, we have the scale of the noise texture. Thanks to this, the particles will move chaotically and we can animate this indicator. And we connect another scale that will be responsible for how far from the original the particles are removed. It won't take much time, but then it will be convenient to work. And we also connect the minimum and maximum that will be responsible for shifting the elements to the side. Next, we can connect the minimum and maximum for the rotation of particles in global coordinates. We need this so that the elements rotate not only each around its own axis, but so that they can all simultaneously rotate around a common coordinate axis. So our menu is ready. As you can see it on the right like this. It looks at first glance complicated, but everything is much simpler than it seems. Let me show you how it all happens. First you need to choose a font for the text. I advise you to choose something very straight and without any turn signals twists. You need to choose something either black or bold. Initially, I have this thin font to give. I will show you how to fix problems with thicker ones. There is such a setting, voxel amount, increase it to 150, and as you can see, almost perfect. Now let me show you how to animate. First I will make an animation with one letter so that nothing slows down, everything is clear what is happening. For example, I want ancient elven magic to affect the scene, and the inscription appeared out of nowhere, particles flew from above and created a letter. In the geometric nodes I switched the offset to the y-axis. Now you need to set keyframes. At the end, on the 100th frame, I want everything to return to normal, that is, to 0. In the noise animation line, write the formula #frame/100. The higher the value of the number that you divide by, the slower the particles will move. And on the first frame, I set the value as shown on the screen in order to stretch, move and twist the elements initially. And I make a keyframe for each of these values. Just as you can see, I animated the scale from 0 to the original value, and it turned out that these particles appear. Now, instead of one letter, we can write the word well, that's it, period. Check your subscription, write comments, like it will help the channel develop and I will be pleased. Learn hotkeys, they will make your life easier. Take your time and pray for Ukraine. Thank you, bye.